Welcome to Railhammer Leather. My name is Seth. I'm on a journey to learn leatherworking from scratch, and I'm bringing you along with me as I figure this out. I'm still getting familiar with the tools in my new leatherworking kit, so today I thought we'd take a look at a few of them and add a little bit to our knowledge library. First up is this punch tool set. There are a lot of letters in here, and these are used for stamping words or initials into leather. From what I can tell, you don't really want to smash these in with a ton of force, but you do need a good solid impact to get a clean impression. And that leads me to tool number 2 for today, the leatherworker's hammer. Now, this is interesting because it doesn't look like what most of us picture when we think of a hammer. Honestly, it kind of looks more like a lint roller than a hammer. When I think of a hammer, I think of something like this, just a standard one from my general toolbox. My guess is that the shape of this leather hammer gives you more surface area on the head, so when you're delivering a controlled, even strike instead of a really heavy blow, it's more about consistency than brute force, especially when you're working with punch tools. Next up, this is the adjustable edge creaser. From what I understand, this helps you draw consistent lines along the edge of leather, usually as a guide for stitching. It helps keep your sewing line straight and evenly spaced. There are actually several tools in this kit that seem related to marking or guiding sewing lines, and I'm guessing each has its own specific use depending on the project. All right. Enough talking. Let's actually try something. Today we're going to start simple. I'm going to cut 2 strips of leather and use prong punches to make holes for stitching. And then we'll sew the strips together and see what comes out of it. Let's give it a shot. Okay, here we have our 2 pieces of leather. I'm going to go ahead and get started on these. I'm really just trying to get them even. And then we'll really get into the punch tools for creating those holes. So right off the bat, I'm just going to start measuring away and seeing what we can do about making some marks on here, where I'm really just going to cut like really just 1 inch threads off of these. That's my intent. So again, we're just going to be making sure I do this as gently as possible. So I'm going to make my first line down here. I'm really going to be using really my actual cuts as markers. All right, I'm going to go ahead and speed things up here. Otherwise we'd be here forever. I'm cutting these strips of leather along the side of the ruler to keep everything nice and straight. It actually takes quite a few passes with the knife before the leather finally separates. Next, I need to clean up the ends of these strips. The scrap leather I'm working with rarely has multiple straight edges, so there's always a little bit of trimming to do. Now I'm repeating the same steps with a darker piece of leather. I'm getting through the leather here with a pretty significant amount of pressure on the knife, but since I'm still pretty new to this, I don't want to push too hard and cause problems with this sharp object in my hand. This one section is being especially stubborn, so I'm just going to flip it over and finish the cut from the underside. A little cleanup on the ends, and I think we're about ready to put the knife away. Here's the last cut to even out the length of the 2 strips. The lighter one ended up being just a little bit longer. Okay, now I'm using the adjustable edge creaser I picked up earlier. This gives me a really nice line to follow for where my stitching is going to go. And now, hammer time. I'm using this prong punch tool and working right down that line I just marked in the leather. As I move up the leather with the punch tool, I keep the last 2 prongs seated in the holes I just made. That helps keep everything lined up and spaced evenly. Now I'll repeat those same steps with the darker leather. Once again, I have to put a bit more oomph into the punch tool to get through this strip. The punch tool gave me a good start, but it's still just a little too tough to push the needle through. So I'm switching to this wooden awl. And no, I didn't just see a puppy. That's actually the name of this tool. Anyway, well, maybe not anyway. The wooden awl just broke, and I'm honestly not sure the appropriate sad sound for this moment. I do have another one, but it's a bit larger than I'd like. It'll still push through the holes, but pulling it back out is pretty rough on the end, so I'm going to keep using the broken one and help it along with some needle nose pliers. Alright, finally ready for some sewing. I'll feed the wax thread up through the lighter leather, then down through the darker piece. This is the part where I really have to dig deep and find a tool called patience. Even after using the punch and the wooden awl to open the holes, the needle still takes quite a bit of pressure to get through each one. One thing I'm learning here is that I really need to think ahead about the leather I'm using, the needle size, and how far apart I want the stitching before I decide on a hole punching approach. I don't fully know all those strategies yet, but I do know I need them. And of course, rookie mistake, I didn't pull through enough thread for the back and forth stitching. I thought I had enough. Apparently not. So I'll just feed in a new length of thread and tie it together on the underside. Hey, you live and learn. Just a few more back and forth passes now. At this point, it's actually getting a little easier to stitch since the two pieces are starting to hold together and everything feels more stable. All sewn up. Now I'll tie off the ends by running the needle back through the last few stitches, pulling the thread through the final loop and then tightening everything down. The other side seems to be coming together nicely as I tie things up. And just dust things off a bit here. The piece is actually pretty flexible and moves well. It has a decent look to it. Alright, here we are. 2 leather strips sewn together. Maybe this could be a handle wrap for luggage, maybe a bracelet, who knows. It's not perfect, but hey, we got somewhere. And right now, somewhere is exactly where we're aiming. Well, that's it for Railhammer Leather this time. Thanks for coming along with me, and I'll see you in the next project.